If you grew up in the Hudson Valley, you'll definitely know my guest on Hudson Valley Hustle. If you don't know him by name, you definitely know him by his voice. In this episode, we have Skywalker from K104. I grew up listening to Sky, and in this interview, we had a lot of fun. He's just a Hudson Valley guy through and through. I had a lot of fun in this interview. I hope you enjoy. So my wife's a couple of years older than me. Now I'm 37, right? Okay. So I grew up listening to K104, right? Mm-hmm. So who did like the top 9 at 9? Was that? So we're going back like...
We got a few eras. I mean, when I first started, I started at nights initially for about half a year.
When was that?
That was 2000, 2001.
Okay.
That's when I started. Then we had Danny Valentino. He was a little bit ago. And then we had D Knight. We had Brian Stiles. Yep. And now we have Paulie Fiva.
Okay. That's cool.
Radio has a tendency to go through their air talents. It's not exactly the most stable business a lot of the times. It's show business. But K104 has this uncanny knack of stability. I've been at K104 for 24 years, almost 25 years. Scotty Mack, my boss, he has been there for a long time, as has Woodman, our morning guy.
Yeah.
So it's an institution in the Hudson Valley.
So we were talking about this a little bit off air, but so are people telling you now that you were like the voice of their childhood?
Yes. People are telling me that as they carry their new child.
Isn't it terrifying though?
It is. Because I don't feel older. I don't. I just feel like frozen in time in a sense. Because I've been in the same place, and it's a young business. So in general, I know more about pop culture than my 40-something-year-old friends. They're like, how do you know about Nicki Minaj and Kendrick Lamar? Because they're not really into that. I'm like, it's my job to know. But yes, I know all these people.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's great. So you're like the hip guy.
I hope so. It's necessity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. You're just like a voice of like our generation. I feel like it's like I remember listening to you when I was a teenager. It's crazy.
I forget the impact you have on people. That's why I love what I do. I just love being someone's companion, someone's comfort. I don't appreciate celebrity. To me, I've met a bunch of people. Been lucky to go to a lot of places. Celebrity is they're just people too. I geek out over broadcasting people. If you took me to the Today Show and I met Savannah Guthrie, that's where I would geek out because they're part of my routine. And then what I have to remember is that I am part of other people's routine. I get in my car, I'm done with work, I turn on K104. He told me my school was closed. Those kind of things. So you have a nostalgic feel for these voices. And that's what I have to remember when people come up to you. And I've gotten recognized by my voice, which I always think throws me off because I don't think I have a particularly unique voice. But when you're in the barber chair and it's like, are you? And I'm like, hi, how are you? Oh my God. So It's fun. It's such a great way to make a living. I'm very lucky.
It's amazing. As soon as you walked in, I knew. I was like, I know him. I
just close your eyes.
Yeah, it takes me right back.
Caller 14 right now, 1877.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good. It's true though, because I remember the voices that I used to wake up to when I was in middle school, high school, and even if I hear them now, I don't even know what Boris is doing these days. But I used to listen to Boris every day, and I still if I hear his voice, it takes me right back to hearing that when I woke up. My alarm going off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the intro song would come on, and it's like boom, nostalgia.
Totally, yeah. Boris is over at WPDH now.
He's still over there.
RV. Yeah, he moved over from RV, went to the older station, and he's another institution. And
wild.
The Hudson Valley is a unique place, too, for radio. Radio is a crazy business. It's changed drastically throughout the years. But there tends to be, in the Hudson Valley, a lot of stability, which is rare, and I'll take it. I'm from Long Island. I never thought my life would end up in the Hudson Valley. And here I am 24 years later, and I'm ingrained in the Hudson Valley. I bought a house in the Hudson Valley, and here I am.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the radio landscape now, because I've been, I think, like you and I talked about, I worked in radio for about 5 years. Actually, I worked for the same gentleman that's running, it's Pamela now, right?
Pamela Broadcasting.
so I've worked for him. I was in the industry, worked pretty closely with them. Even after that, when I started this business almost 10 years ago, give me like the lay of the land right now. How much has it changed in the last, since you've been in it for 20 something years?
It's changed incredibly. The music business has changed incredibly. I am on music radio, and I think that the biggest change is music consumption, how people consume their music. It used to be that you needed to wait for K104 to play your favorite song. People would sit by the radio, record the songs, and wait for the top 9 at 9, see where their favorite song was. Now you can access music anywhere and anything. Anywhere, and anytime.
Right now,
whatever you want to hear on YouTube, Spotify. So how has radio changed? You can listen to Taylor Swift 1,000 different ways and in 1,000 different places. The difference maker is what I do. It's the personality. You don't get a personality on Spotify. You don't get a voice. You don't get a take. You don't get an opinion. And the locality. We're a local radio station. We serve the Hudson Valley, Dutchess and Orange County, Ulster as well. And if there is a Girl Scout troop having a bake sale in New Windsor, you're not going to hear about it on Spotify. You'll hear about it on K104. If there's a backup at the Five Corners or on 84 like there is, or the Newburgh Beacon Bridge, the bane of my existence, you're going to hear about it on K104. So radio has had to pivot and had to shift and understand that they're not just a jukebox. We are a brand that gives information out in different ways.
So tell me about then, I know that even when I was there going back 10 years ago, the shift from local to not local was happening even on local radio stations. So how is that impacting things now? Because are you still live on K?
I am live. K104 Palmo Broadcasting has a commitment to local music or to local programming, which is rare. The other clusters, Town Square somewhat, iHeart somewhat less. The business model has just changed.
Right.
So our owner believes in local and wants local live personality. So there is someone physically in our studio from 5 a.m. till midnight every single day. And on the weekends, most of the weekend is absolutely live.
That's rare, man.
Very rare.
Really rare.
And I think it's a difference maker. I think it's why K104 is number one. We're
still
not
relevant.
piped in. Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's a little bit of a dichotomy because I make my side hustle. I have a side job where I record for other radio stations across the country, where I am being the non-local guy in other smaller markets that probably can't afford a live person there full time.
How does that work? How do you make that relevant and local to them? Like, do they give you reads or is it just,
Yeah, it's all as good as my boots on the ground, as much information as they give to me. And I do a lot of research. I mean, I worked at a library when I was in high school. I'm very good at finding out information. So I literally wake up every morning. I go downstairs. I have a home studio. And I record 6 radio stations across the country, from Tennessee to Wisconsin to Missouri. And I pull up local information. Because information is so prevalent these days,
right,
I can find out a lot. I make sure that I'm pronouncing things correctly. Pronunciations is key because you don't want somebody saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And you shift your content. You know, I have to know that the Packers lost on Friday. In Brazil, I have to know that the Titans lost. All my locals lost. The Panthers lost. All the people that, you know, and I also have to learn vernacular for the different markets. I have a few southern markets. So people in the South, they treat things very differently.
Interesting. Do you put on a little...
I don't. No,
okay.
I don't do that because that's fake.
Like,
you don't want to.
That's.
You know, you don't want.
Are you still Skywalker though on those stations?
Luckily, most stations. One station, I'm JJ Carter in Kingston, and WBPM. It's our company. So
really,
I used to overlap. I used to do middays, so I used to overlap. So my company didn't want me to have Skywalker in 2 different places at the same time. So WBPM is one of our smaller stations. They're Kingston-based, live in the morning. So I do nights as JJ Carter.
Interesting. Okay. It sounds like a nighttime.
I don't even know how I came up with it. I was just.
That was your name? You came up with that?
Yeah, JJ is my initials for my my government name, my legal name, and
gotcha.
Yeah. So
do people know what that is? Do people know?
No.
Will they ever? Will they ever?
It's not such a big secret, but
okay.
It's like
I didn't know. I don't.
Yeah, no, it's my name, but you know, it's just kind of like this is the business, and like if your people's real names are irrelevant.
Gotcha.
So.
Google it if you want it.
Yeah, or if you want to be in my family, or you know, you're rich, let me know.
That's amazing.
I'll give you my name.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it definitely has changed quite a bit, but I will say there is something to that local feel of local radio, right? And I remember when I was working at iHeart, that was shifting out. And, even now, I don't know how many live people are in that studio anymore. And it's sad to see the empty studios, and it's good to see that. I know Chuck is he's the live and local guy. That's his thing. So him taking over that kind of just made sense.
A lot of it is your parent company. iHeart is a media machine. I respect what they do.
Sure.
But their business model isn't just necessarily about, Poughkeepsie. They have just national brands, and they make their money other ways. And that's totally fine. That's fine for them. And that leaves more room for us to be hyper local, is how I like to call it.
Yeah. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to be down on broadcast radio or anything like that, but one of the issues I had with it is the way that the stations were programmed, right? Where you'd have, you have 10 minutes of songs, 5 minutes of commercials, whatever it is, whatever the program clock looks like. Has that shifted at all, or is it still kind of like that same format where there's like that big break in between? Because I always liked endorsements from local talent. I feel like that was the most natural type of marketing that any company could get. Because it wasn't, hey, I'm gonna stop all the stuff that you're here to listen to all this stuff. It's just kind of woven into. So has that shifted at all?
Yeah, I mean, the model is the same. You still have, how many commercials is totally up to the company.
Okay.
Some companies are heavier than others, but there is a science about it. It kind of goes along the whole lines of, why do you hear the same songs over and over again?
Sure.
And I always have to train my friends and family and give them the radio secrets that people's attention spans are very short and very small. So while we play the same songs over and over again, our thought is that we want you to hear a hit song every time you turn on the radio. And there's a whole science behind it. The amount of people that listen to the radio for 8 hours a day in an office is minuscule. So they're the people that get annoyed at the repetition or the commercials. But if you're just punching in and punching out and you want to hear the new Post Malone song, there's a reason why we do it so often, and why we go to commercials so often, et cetera. I agree with you on endorsements. So the shift in revenue has changed and how you're making revenue. A lot of online, a lot of brand endorsements, a lot of things like that. I just finished an endorsement run for a couple of years with Dunkin', which was incredible and a great partner for me because I'm a coffee person. So I had a great thing. And people also, it works. I tell advertisers it works. I used to do endorsements for Bonefish Grill and Red Lobster. I forgot what my tagline was in Red Lobster, but people used to come up to me and shout the tagline. And I was like, oh, it's working.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Mattress firm, they gave me a mattress to talk about. And I've never let more people in my bedroom and talk about this mattress.
That's amazing.
But it works. It's people trust you, and people appreciate what you have to think, and for you to give your green light on something.
Of course, yeah. And I think just the nature of the way that people listen to it, you are part of the content, right? So it's the music and the talent. That's the content of a radio station,
Correct.
Right? So anytime you can weave those ads that don't necessarily sound like ads into the regular content,
right,
it works better than
right.
a TV commercial or, an ad before a YouTube video or something like that. I think that's why social ads work really well, because they're woven, especially if they don't look like ads,
right.
They're woven into the content that you're there to see. That's what makes them so powerful. That's why I love local endorsements.
Listen, if you have a restaurant, great, advertise on the radio. We would love that. And it would be a 60-second commercial talking about the best chicken parm you've ever had in your life. That'll go so far.
Sure.
Okay, how about Skywalker goes to your restaurant's kitchen, you film a video of me cooking the chicken parm with this business owner, and you have a visual. And then all of a sudden, you get a whole nother set of people that are willing to try your business. And your return on investment is that much different. So yeah, we have definitely changed our model. So it's not just a 60-second commercial anymore. There's a whole digital department that is involved in optimization and all those, talking points for that stuff. That's the salespeople side of things. But they've come up with, and it's important to keep up with that. So that's what we did. We do a lot of blogs, and we do online articles, and you can advertise by being the pre-roll when you listen to a lot of people listen to us on streaming.
Right.
So you're forced to listen to an ad. It's just all these different ways. And the key to surviving is keeping up with that.
Yeah.
or just being one of those old dinosaurs that said, this is the way we used to do it, so this is the way it's going to be. And luckily, my company has been positive about that.
That's good. I deal with a lot of businesses that still want to do things the way that they used to do them. And obviously, I can't work with them. But
No.
you hear it all the time where it's like there's certain industries that just won't change,
Right.
no matter what happens.
Right. It's very easy to get caught in a rut or just to do it the way things have always been done.
Yeah, just get very romantic about the way you
Yeah.
used to do things. And
you just need innovative people with a different way of thinking, and you need management that's supportive of those innovative people. So, I've kept it my business to be on top of how the industry has changed. At the end of the day, I'm in show business. It's show business. It's not the most stable thing. I have been stable, yes, but I don't have my head in the sand knowing how it goes as a talent. So my mission has been to diversify my work, my talent, and my knowledge so that if something didn't happen, I have a way to pivot. I think pivoting in life and in business is key.
of course, absolutely. I've been in business for 9 years, and if I didn't pivot 3 or 4 or 5 different times, I probably wouldn't survive. It's just, you have to.
The pandemic is still affecting. I mean, it's still, pandemic was horrible for radio. It was really hard. Most of our ad revenue came from event-driven business and car dealerships. Well, when people were staying inside, they weren't going to events, and there was the whole chip thing with the car where you couldn't buy a new car. So why would you want to advertise? And socially, people even post-pandemic, I've noticed, when I started K104, it was the K104 Saturday night dance party. We were at clubs and bars all over the Hudson Valley. I was working on a Tuesday night in Monticello, a Thursday night at the Mad Hatter in Poughkeepsie, Saturday night at Front Street. I miss the money. I don't miss the hours. That was socially. Now, I don't know if you're a group of girls and you want to go dancing. I don't know where you go.
Where do you send them? Sure.
Yeah. And it used to be you used to go to a club or bar and maybe try to meet somebody or, hook up with somebody. Now you just swipe and they're going to be at your house. And, I mean, that's
what
the
app
way.
is that?
That's what the kids tell me,
It's great. It's wild. Yeah.
Cannabis legalization, that has totally changed people's social habits.
Sure.
So radio has had a pivot.
Yeah, really interesting point. So you talk about, so you have to diversify, and I think you're doing a really good job of that. You have, the tracking for other stations in the area. You also said that you're teaching at Orange. You're teaching at SUNY Orange?
I've been teaching for like 10, 11 years.
Yeah. What are you teaching over there?
Broadcasting, broadcast radio, digital education, or digital radio production. Many years ago, I covered somebody's maternity leave. A former air talent, Lynn Kelly, back in the day. I don't remember.
I remember the name. I absolutely do. Yeah.
So Lynn went on maternity leave, needed someone to cover her class. They liked me. I ended up teaching TV and then ended up teaching radio. And so I do it. It's awesome. It's everything. I have a lot of teacher friends. So every experience they have relayed to me, I have experienced now. Like that whole, somebody walks into a classroom knowing nothing. And then at the end of the semester, they're producing all these.
Cool.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I had a part in that. It was really cool.
That's nice. Yeah, to see that transformation. I love that. Yeah, that's
and I've
great.
hired some people off of SUNY Orange, and it's been a lot of great connections. So I've kept that going. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go out there and I adjunct for them.
That's great. So it's broadcast radio. So how has that shifted, or how's the curriculum shifted for that in the last?
I used to introduce myself. So the radio business, people say, "Oh, radio's dying." It's not dying. It's not going anywhere. It's free. It'll always be there. If there was an eroding of anything, probably in younger people's music consumption doesn't necessarily come from radio anymore. So when I first started teaching the class, I used to introduce myself. Well, here's my real name, but I go by Skywalker. Oh my gosh, Skywalker's my teacher. Now has kind of dissipated because a lot of people are not as necessarily as familiar with radio. I turn them on to radio and I get them hooked on it and I teach them that part. But where had my classes shifted is in the last 2 years, I've added a podcasting element. A lot of people are interested in podcasting. I like it, and I've gotten into podcast. I used to do a podcast just to get practice for teaching it, but I don't do it anymore. But I love podcasting because any niche, any interest that you have, there's probably a podcast about, and they're going to talk about it for days.
Absolutely.
So I teach them the basics of podcasting and how to keep a good podcast going and the pitfalls. And, one of the things I noticed about podcasting, I was to get into a podcast and somebody would do it for like 6 weeks and then it would trail off. I got busy. So I was like, it's a consistency. You got to keep doing it. You got to expect it. And it's been great. It's been great learning for me too. So that's the way I've shifted.
That's great. Yeah, you have to, and again, that you have to shift, right? Like that's it's just like radio broadcast. You have to be shifting. That's great. So everybody has a podcast now. I mean, obviously, right? Everybody's got a podcast now. And it's funny. I see so many comments on TikTok because there's so many clips on TikTok and social now that are of podcasts, right? And I see the comment over and over again. They are making podcast equipment too affordable. It's like too accessible to everybody because anybody that wants one can just have one for $100 and away you go.
Rodecaster is very affordable, and I love my Rodecaster. I use it for broadcasting, so it's great. They've made everything more affordable. I have many mobile DJ friends, and I remember when getting into the mobile business, just from them. I never did mobile DJing, but getting into the business, it was you had to invest to enter it. Now things have become so consumer ready that there's variations. There's a cheap version and there's a more professional. But if you wanted to put something together, it's pretty affordable because everything has become so consumer friendly. Yeah. For better, for worse.
Right, because it gives everybody a platform. Yeah. That not necessarily, everybody doesn't necessarily need to have a platform, but...
Well, just to circle back to music, that's one of the reasons why the music business has changed drastically. Radio used to be the tastemaker, meaning whatever I said was a hit was probably a hit. Now, with the advent of TikTok and Spotify, anybody can put their content out there, which is good because anybody can put their content out there, which is bad because there's so much to weed through. Where's the good stuff?
Where's the quality? Sure. Yeah. Because there is no more quality control. There used to be a huge, like you said, there used to be a much bigger barrier to entry, not just in podcasting, but in music especially, where you would have to be signed, you'd have to have exposure, you'd have to have right. But now, like you said, anybody can I can throw up a song on Spotify tomorrow and nobody could ever hear about it. Or I can go viral on TikTok and now everybody knows about it. So are you active on social when it comes to that kind of stuff to look at those trends? I know you said you have to be aware of what's happening in pop culture and whatnot. Where do you rely on that? Are you active on social when it comes to that?
Yeah, we look at everything. We still go through the first thing I say to my class and to anybody is radio is a business. It's a business first. And our business is kind of predicated on record companies a lot of times.
Okay.
So you want to be local in the sense that you want to be approachable to local artists, but there is a time and place for everything. Our radio station isn't necessarily the place for a local artist.
Okay.
For the exposure, we're kind of like once you've already made it, kind of educating people. There are radio stations and places to be heard. Like I said, you can be heard by millions of people on Spotify and on TikTok. But I've had to train people that this is kind of the way the business has gone. And, we have to go with where the record companies point us in a sense. Still quality, but we've had to change our mission a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. But there are plenty of artists that didn't have labels that with one song become K104 worthy, right? Like,
of course,
it happens. It does happen.
Yeah,
but there is a lot. But you're right. There is a lot more that you to sift through. It's not,
not to get into the weeds, but things that we do, promotions that we do, like a concert. We do K-Fest and we do Not So Silent Night. These concerts. It's a relationship between us and the record company where, we're playing the song and they'll come and they'll bring the artist. And if we have an artist that is unrepresented, then we're not getting the support on the other side of business. So it's tough, but we still want to play the hot thing. We want to play the thing that matters, but we have to also pay the bills. We have to sell tickets. We have to do all these things. So it's a juxtaposition for sure. And there are avenues for locals to go. And there's also different versions of radio stations. We are the #1 radio station in the Hudson Valley and the most listened to radio station. So we have a certain bar that we have to maintain. But if you're going to go to Vassar College, they have a pretty respectable non-commercial radio station where you can be played on WVKR.
Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. All right. That's great. So aside from being in broadcast radio, doing your side thing and teaching at SUNY, what else are you doing? Do you still DJ? Like, do you do have you ever done parties or anything like that? Was that ever like your thing?
No, I'm surrounded by friends that do it. Perfect. It's never been my interest. Okay. I respect it tremendously. It's too much pressure. One time in my life, I did a wedding. I emceed a wedding as a favor, and it went well, but I didn't want the pressure. I didn't want to pronounce a bride's name wrong or a family member wrong. And you have to be, people use the term DJ. I would say I'm a broadcast DJ.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a showmanship to mobile DJing that I could do. It just doesn't come off, I don't think, as genuine. It's just not my personality.
Yeah, sure.
But there's a lot of money in it, and it's a great business because people are always going to get married. People are always going to have a sweet 16. But it's never been a thing for me.
That's funny. You're right about that pressure, though, because I've been asked, by we primarily work with businesses, right? We're a production company. This is what we do. But I would never, ever touch a wedding. The pressure in that to get your SD card craps out. You know what I mean? You're done. There's just too much pressure.
I've heard every disaster story ever, and it totally weighs on the DJ and weighs on. And I've seen brides in action. No offense to brides, but Bridezilla-esque things. I was like, I want no part of that. I'm good. I'm the radio guy. So.
I love it. No, I remember going to a wedding and. The music will make or break it, right?
Yeah,
it really will.
Sure.
It'll make or break the party.
No,
right?
they set the flow, the tone. Like, it's not even just random. They know the type of music they need to play at what time, and that all has to be coordinated with the maitre d'. And I much prefer being a solo guy.
I love it.
I'm not as collaborative.
That's okay. All right. So it's just you in the booth right now?
It's just me. I have a traffic reporter who's kind of like well, not this time around, but I've had a traffic reporter, Christina Lang, in the past, who was a co-host. We've made a change. We have somebody else now. But it's just me from 2 to 7, and it's my quiet time. I love it.
Is that still considered afternoon drive?
Afternoon drive. Yeah, and I go and I do a little production before, or I'll do my voice tracking for my panel stations in the station. And all I can say is I love going to work every day. It's not a job. I don't have the Sunday blues because I have to go to work on Monday. And, it's the only thing I ever wanted to do since I was a little kid. I've always wanted to be a radio DJ. So I've never really had to sacrifice what I've wanted to do with an alternate plan. I figured out a way to do it, to make it quasi-lucrative and a career. Always had a dream of working in New York City, and I got to work in New York City twice at 2 big radio stations. I used to drive to Boston every weekend. Every Sunday I drove to Boston 3 hours each way to work in a large market. So I've run the gamut, and I've grown as a person. The younger me was, I want to get backstage. I want to meet this person. And then the older me is like, I want a mortgage. I want to, do all the normal things. And I've had a good career, but I definitely have thoughts on extending it as long as possible. No one's telling me to go anywhere, and I don't think anybody would, but I don't want to be caught off guard either. So I always tell my class to just be diversified, be prepared to pivot, and also love what you do. Have a passion for it. I totally have a passion for it. My dad had his own business. He was a construction management. He had an office on Park Avenue, worked with high-profile clients, made a lot of money. If I wanted to go into the family business, I could have, but I used to go, how you go to work with your dad. I used to go and sit at his desk and look at plans of like how a bathroom was made. And I'm like, I don't care how the bathroom was made. So I just said from that point, I saw the stress. He had to pay employees and make sure he makes payroll and all that stuff. And a lot of these entrepreneurial characteristics. And it was not in my interest that way. And I just wanted to make sure I loved what I did. And I understand that's a luxury. Not everyone can. Sometimes, you have to do what you have to do for your family. And if it means that you have to pump gas to pay the bills, you have to pump gas to pay the bills. So I've just been trying to make sure that I do what I love so that I have the best me going forward.
I love that because that's not taught enough. It's not, right? And you're lucky enough to have found the thing that you love and you've been able to do it. You exude the fact that you love what you do. I mean, it comes out of you. It really does.
Thank you. That's the best compliment I could have.
Because you don't do it for that long. And at this level and still love it without really, really loving it. And I think that's not taught enough. And I know there are plenty of people that just have to get up at whatever time to do the thing that they hate.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. But I still think there's an opportunity to find the thing that you actually do want to do.
And still get paid at it.
And still do it. Yeah,
for
100%.
Sure. I've had this conversation a million times. Like, there are people that just grind through the Monday through Friday at a good salary so that Saturday and Sunday they can enjoy those things. And I have shifted. I was very much work. Like, I was an 8 a.m. to 7, 8 o'clock at night person. And as the years have gone by, one thing people say, how do you do how much you do? And I'm like, I'm good at time management. I can schedule everything perfectly. And I do that so that I can shift around and do what I have to do. And it's worked out for me. And that's what I try to express to people.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you have to pick the lifestyle you want. And that's what you have to work for, right? Because I know people that work 12-hour days, make a ton of money, stressed out of their minds, miserable. And then I know people that make, $16 an hour and they're happy as can be, right? So you have to find that thing that's right for you.
Hopefully you can find it before something happens. I had two instances. They weren't life changers. They weren't those instances that like totally shifted. But one instance was my dad passed away while I was on the air. I was on the air. I got the word that my dad passed away. And I literally put down the headphones, went to my sister's house and took care of that. I didn't come back for 9 days. Guess what? When I came back after 9 days, the world was still running. The radio station was still going. Older me was like, I got to do this. I got to do that. Who's going to do this? This is life. I had to take care of family stuff. So that was listen, I'm doing that for me. I had a heart incident. Just it won't even get, it's fine. I'm fine. Okay. I'm good. But this was like, listen, I sit behind a radio board all day. It's not exactly the most, healthy. You're not really moving. And I started to focus on my health more and worked with a common friend, Anthony Esposito, in fitness, who's been a life changer. And I started to take into account my personal being more than my business. And I say, I'm going to him 3 days a week. Sorry if it gets in the way of things, but life will go on. I'll be a better me if I take care of this other stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that has been an arc for me, from workaholic to more realistic. I have friends that can attest that I'm not the same as I was. Yeah. And I'm just as productive and just as successful. Guess what? Yeah.
Yeah, you're mentally and physically better than you were though. Cause I'm a parent. I don't know if you have kids or not, but I have two kids, and you quickly realize that if you are not taking care of yourself, you have no business taking care of somebody else or something else. You physically cannot do it. Yeah. So that's when I started taking health and wellness a lot more seriously, and just being way more active than I used to be, because there's other people depending on it. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah, you got to realize that there are things bigger than you and bigger than your business. Yeah. And, I don't have any kids or pets, and I kind of like being able to come and go as I please or whatever. And I'm smart enough to know that I'm selfish enough that works for me.
You're self-aware.
But yes, I am self-aware. But I have nieces and nephews, and that have like totally changed my world. Like I didn't know, like if I feel how I feel about my nieces and nephews, and they're not even my kids. Yep. Oh my God, imagine if I was their parent, and just having they just want to see you. They just want you and your time, and just to have those unsolicited phone calls. They're getting to the age where they start to text or call. And I'm like, and those unsolicited I love yous. And I was like, okay, I'm learning what it's like to be this part of my life and this human part of my life. Yeah. Where I can be honest to me, but I also can, help other people and be there for other people.
That's great.
It's definitely been the journey that, one would expect. And my goal is just to extend this journey as long as possible.
That's great. Sky, you're an example of go do what you love.
Good.
Everything will be fine. Like that's great. I love it. This is like amazing.
Yeah, that's the mantra I tell my students in class. And you're 20 years old. Now's the time to take that job in Iowa when you don't have any commitments. Take the chance. Like I said, I never thought I'd leave Long Island. I love Long Island, but then I grew a home here. So I just want people to have a good experience and just have a good life. I'm very empathetic in that way, that I would just want to see people do well for themselves.
That's great. I love it, man. This has been really good.
Thank you.
I know you love the area. You love what you do. Yeah. That's amazing. The Hudson Valley is awesome. I mean, except for like 3 months where I hate it. Yeah. Because I'm not a winter guy. But
snow is my enemy. Here's the difference: is that I get to tell people to stay home. Meanwhile, I have to go to the office. Go in. Yeah. I do. I'm trying to change that if the bosses are listening. But
you have a Comrex at home, like you can...
I do. I could technically, but we are saying one time I'll tell you. One time I was in Beacon and there was a horrible snowstorm. I was doing the morning show. I couldn't get out out of my spot. I couldn't get there, and there was nobody there to relieve me. So I commandeered a snowplow. And I'm not a name dropper, but I'm like, sir, I'm Skywalker from K104. Can you give me a ride to Pamela Broadcasting down the street? And he did, but I have a lot of horrible snow stories. But I'll deal with it. It's fine. No, I found the parts of, the Hudson Valley I like, and set up shop in the town of Newburgh. I love Cold Spring. I love Rhinebeck. All these different, areas, and my job,
a beautiful area.
My job allows me to, I sample a lot of things because, all the events and the best of the Hudson Valley and all these restaurants and things like that. So I like it. It's good. And the access to New York City. So when I feel like I need some activity more.
Yep.
It's just 60 miles away on the train.
I love it.
So, yeah.
That's great, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I usually ask, where can people find you?
Weekdays till 7 on K104. My website is undergoing a refresh. Maybe when this airs, it will be done. But check out skyskymedia.com. skyskymedia.com. It has all my stations, some videos, and kind of things about me as a whole and how to contact me and if I could be of any help.
That's great, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
I had a great time. I appreciate it.